Afternoon, everybody. How are we all? Day 4 of the IBC. I trust we're all feeling refreshed, energetic, and healthy. On my part, this is today how I'm feeling. I don't know if you've ever seen this one before. Today is one of those days where I feel like PS1 Hagrid. It's been a long 4 days, and at IBC, you do things properly. I want to introduce myself and say hello. So my name's Alex. I am a freelance editor, camera operator, Adobe certified instructor, Premiere Pro, and I have titled this presentation, The Road to Moscow. And essentially this is a reflection of my journey getting to Moscow as working for HBS as an Edit Suite support assistant. Basically, keeping an eye on the edit suites, and Premiere Pro's journey of getting to the big large football event that happened in Moscow, which some of you may have watched. And it's sort of a reflection as to how far Premiere Pro's come. And I want to sort of just run through a few bits and also use it as an opportunity to show you a couple of features that I really like that have been incrementally added over the years. So this is sort of like, you might learn a little bit here, just out of my own interest. Could I have a show of hands who's actually using Premiere Pro to edit stuff? Okay, so quite a few. Okay, cool. Is anyone going out shooting their own content? Have we got any camera operators in the room? Okay, cool. So I've got a few little tips that might help you. Premiere Pro was actually 25 last year, so it's 26 years old now. I've been using Premiere Pro since, I would guess, around 98. And the amount of things that have changed is very difficult to describe. Forgive me if this presentation jumps around a little bit, because I'm still sort of finding my feet in terms of the flow of the content, that kind of thing. But just to give you an idea of some of the stuff that I've done, I wanted to show you a show reel that I've cut for the purposes of this demonstration. So I'm going to play that. A lot of the material I shot is shot by me, all of it is edited by me, and it gives you an idea of the range of clients I've worked for, and also a little bit of the traveling that I've done over the years. So as you can see, I've worked on quite a wide variety of content, and as I've moved on in terms of the progression of my career, I've worked on many different types of content, but the common thing is that every time I'm working in Premiere Pro as an editor, and I'm an offline editor, but now the sort of lines are being a bit blurred because I'm a Sony FS7 owner as well, and I'm shooting a lot of the time in S-Log. So this is a bit of a list of the things that I really like about Premiere Pro, and if you use it, you're probably going to look at this and go, okay, yeah, I know what that one is, I know what that one is. But if you think of these things over time, it really is incredible how much sort of control you've got with your content inside of the application. Dynamic link was a massive feature when that was added. I think that was CS4, if I'm right. And search bins are another thing that, what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this back and I'm going to show you a couple of things that I really, really like. And maybe you know about, maybe you don't. And if you don't, you might sort of think, oh, okay, maybe I'll look at that. At the end of that show reel, you saw a shot from an aerial unit. And this was 2013. This was for me when things really changed with Premiere Pro, and it was basically when I made a firm decision, I'm just going to stick with Premiere because it sort of works. We worked on a short film called The Flying Lesson in 2013, entirely edited in Premiere Pro. Now, it might have been CS6. I'm not entirely sure. I can't remember whether it was CS6, CS5, but it was certainly that generation of application. It was a short film with a full aerial unit. We had mixed codecs and resolutions all on the same timeline in 2013, and one of those camera formats was red, just on the timeline, just working. And it was, for the director, he loved the ability to just cut things without the need for transcode and all that sort of stuff. And it was a really, really massive thing. Hang on. Yeah, I've lost my window. Bear with me. Okay, there you go. Another thing, I'm not going to go into this one because I'm going to run out of time if I do, but you will have noticed that in that show reel there was a lot of speed ramps. So there was a lot of high frame rate material going really nicely slow, silky looking great, and then sort of snapping into speed and then dipping in and out. Is anyone shooting high frame rate content at this time with an FS7, FS5, whatever? Show of hands if anyone's sort of... So the thing with that is, it looks great, but if you're not able to contrast the slow-mo with the high-speed stuff, it sort of gets a little bit boring after a while. So this technique I use all the time. I just want to run you through it. Basically, what we've got on the timeline here is a high frame rate clip shot on a Sony FS7, and if I full screen this and play it, this was shot at 100 frames per second. And again, we're looking at this at its native shot speed, 100 frames a second. One of the things that I'll do a lot, and possibly too much, but I love it, it looks great, so I just keep on doing it and nobody's complaining, so why not, is ramp the speed. Now, forgive me if you know this or you don't. If you don't, it might be a thing that you'll like to do, but what are the things I'll do is I'll increase the track height of this clip. And this little button here, if I right-click it, it gives me an option that shows me what I can make that white line refer to. So by default, that white line refers to opacity. So if I was to lower it, the clip would become transparent, and if I was to raise it, it would become opaque. But I'm going to ask this, this line to refer to speed. And now the line sits in the middle of the clip, and that clip is at its native speed, which is 100 frames a second. Now, times 25 by 4, and you get 100. So I'm going to increase the speed of this to 400%, and that will then play back at its regular speed. So let's play this now. And it gives it sort of a nice, like, high shutter speed feel as well, sort of like Saving Private Ryan on the beach type high shutter speed. Now, with this technique, it's key to pick a point when you sort of want it to go into slow-mo. So I'm just going to play this. Maybe I'll go there. Let's take that point there. And to isolate the bit that you want to slow-mo, you hold Control and you click on the line, and that adds a keyframe. Now, I want, as soon as this playhead hits this point here, past this keyframe, I want it to go back to 100 frames a second. So I'm going to lower this line and have it go there. Now the playhead, as soon as it hits this keyframe, is going to go into slow-mo. So let's play it. Now maybe I don't like that point there. So I can hold my Alt key and click and drag that to another point, maybe there. And again, let's play it. Nice. And the thing with that is, don't do it for too long. So do it for a little bit and people go, oh, that looks great. And then it snaps out of it again. So to do that, we sort of do the same thing in reverse. If I Control click there, push this back up, you've got an effect where it looks like this. But even better, these keyframes are unique because you can separate them. So if I click and separate them, it gives you this sort of weird region bit where you can actually click and drag, and then you've got a curve. And then that's a nice ease back into the regular speed stuff. Now, again, with this, you can decide how long that process takes and how steep it is. So you can make it sort of linear or curved. And it's just one of those techniques. If you are acquiring high-speed content, this really does lift it to another level. So I'll play you this clip with that new ramp. Just looks great. I overuse it. I really do. I sort of like try and tone it down a little bit because how many speed ramps have I had in this particular sequence? I don't know. Maybe I'll limit it to 5 or 10. I don't know. Another incremental feature that Premiere Pro added was the Lumetri engine, which I mentioned before. I would consider myself an offline editor in terms of I'll craft the content, but I won't really do the grade. The lines are changing a little bit because I'm acquiring my own content and I'm shooting an S-Log. And so if you shoot an S-Log, certainly one of the things you'll have to do is put a grey LUT. But the thing with S-Log is you're shooting very, very neutral content. And so how do you get the white balance right? Now, I've discovered a really good trick, and I learnt this from a colorist, the colorist friend of mine, he would never work with my content unless I shot a grey card in whichever given lighting condition that I'm in at the time. For instance, if you shot something here, the lighting, there's so many different lights from everywhere, you're going to really struggle to get a neutral starting point to do any kind of grade. So let me show you this trick. I'm going to open up the Lumetri scopes, and this is my YC waveform. And if you can see, the grey card in that shot is represented on the YC waveform by those 3 red, green, and blue bars. Now they're not uniform, so what that tells me is the color balance of this clip is wrong. So to change that, I'm going to go to my effects controls, and I'm going to increase the scale so that that grey card fills the frame. And I'm going to use my temperature and tint controls to sort of chase this grey so that it's uniform. And it's a bit of a thing to do, but once you've got it looking something like that, essentially you're at neutral point. So that clip is now absolutely 100% neutral. I'm going to use my I've got a reset switch there. I'm going to reset that shot back to its original size. Now if I switch this on and off, that's neutral grey. So really, if you're going to do a color grade, you need the clip to be as neutral as it can possibly be. And then if you add LUTs and stuff, you know that you're adding from a neutral point. Has anybody seen that trick before? Has anybody used that? Has anybody sort of going, that could be useful? So literally, I run training courses, and any camera operators that are ever on a training course, literally, if I need to, in my training school, I need a box full of grey cards, because by the end of each course, everyone's like, right, where do I get a grey card from? And everybody I know now that shoots will shoot, have you done the grey card? And it's one of those things that makes your life so much easier. And it's very simple to do. And so, yeah, let me see what I prepared as another little... oh, and by the way as well, I showed you that process. Let's go here. Let's go and do this one. Another useful tip, and I'm full of useful tips. If you hold Shift while you drag the interactable values on the effects controls window and all the effects, you will increase the increments by a factor of 10. So if you just do it without Shift held, you do it at 1 decibel, you do it at a full value per drag. If you hold the Shift key, you'll do it a damn sight quicker. So then let's get this and fill the frame. And let's look at that on the Lumetri scopes when they update. So again, that's not right. So we need to fix that. So let's get it so it's there. Actually, that bit I showed you with the temperature and the tint, you don't necessarily need to do that. I just think it's fun, this is my kind of idea of fun, which is not. I would not very happy to admit that to a room full of people, but I find it fun. So you can actually just click that point, click it there. It gets somewhere close. Let's switch that back. And again, before, after. Yeah, super useful. And then that allows you, again, on the topic of incremental value that Premiere Pro adds each time a set of updates comes, is the ability to add LUTs within the Lumetri engine. And the new features which have been announced at the IBC are even more mind-blowing. It just keeps on getting better. And I don't know quite how they come up with the ideas, but they are very, very good. So I'm going to add a LUT to this. And I've got Sony. Has anyone seen the Sony Venice, the newest sort of Rolls-Royce camera? So if you shoot on FS7, it's similar color science, and I forget the name of the person, but someone's developed a LUT that's for the Venice that sort of gives the FS7. Clearly, you're not going to get all the way because it's a 60,000 quid camera, but it sort of gets some of the way. So if I add this LUT there, you've got a really sort of punchy look there. Now, you might think, oh, the color balance looks a bit weird, but that's because there's there's gels on the lights, and there's quite a lot going on there. So what have I put for 5? And this is another one. So from time to time, I work on long-form stuff. I do a lot of I'm based in Manchester, you probably gathered from the accent. And there is a football team that often plays in red, that are Old Trafford, and I do quite a bit of work for MUTV, and it's really nice because I can make long-form documentaries, and the whole station is all Premiere Pro. And so there's occasionally bits where you've got to stick to compliance, and so people may be in a shot that you need to blur people out occasionally, or license plates, or parts of the image, maybe for advertising, product placement, that kind of thing. Now, you may or may not know about this one. If you don't, again, this might be a thing you look at it and go, whoa, that's pretty good. So we need to blur this license plate, okay? And again, I can't remember exactly which version of Premiere Pro this came when it arrived, this feature, but it was definitely a turning point. So I've added Gaussian blur, or Gaussian blur. I'm not entirely sure how you say that, but... and with the Gaussian blur, or Gaussian blur, however the hell you say it, you see those circular marquee, a square marquee, and the pen tool? Every single effect that you apply to a clip will have those, right? And the purpose of those is for you to mask an area of the shot to effect. Now, if I use this pen tool, click 1, 2, 3, 4, I've now added a mask to this image. I'm going to increase blurriness. And where the magic really happens is that you have these switches here that track the shot forwards and backwards. So having done that license plate, I'll click there. And now I can go to the pub, or a coffee shop, or wherever, wherever life takes me. And so, yeah, and this just happens. You just leave this now. And you can have multiple masks per shot. And again, to reinforce the point that this doesn't need to be, just because I've used a Gaussian blur here, doesn't need to be a Gaussian blur. It can be anything. So, for instance, you could add a color effect, isolate a particular part of the shot, add a color effect, and then mask that color effect. And faces as well. So if you've got people in a shot and they haven't given consent to be in the shot, X, Y, Z, the oval marquee. And it's just magic technology. It really is good, and it's a huge time saver. And I'm a big fan of After Effects. I really love it. But the ability to not have to go there to do this is a really, really, really important one for me. Now, I called this the Road to Moscow, and I want to sort of talk about that large football event that maybe some of you saw. My role on that job was Edit Suite Support Manager. That was my role. When I arrived, I was helping set the edit suites up. Then multiple editors arrived from all over the world to make the content. And I was working for HBS. And if you've not heard of HBS, essentially HBS are like a media wholesalers. So most people bought the content from HBS, whether it would be wholesale, as in all the content, or little bits of it. And our editors were making VTs and toolkits for all these other media. They were called MRLs, media rights licensees. Now, there was 50 edit suites, 50 Premiere Pro edit suites on site where we were. To give you an idea of the scale of this thing, our office when I was in an edit support role, I had to sort of help. If something went wrong, like the speakers weren't working, first thing I'd say is, have you tried to turn it off and on again? That was the first thing I would say. And 99 out of 100, that fixed it. But in our office, we had a scooter because that's how big it was. So you couldn't walk there in time. So you needed to get on the scooter and sort of scoot around. It was amazing. This was the MCR, the Master Control Room. So this took all the feeds from all the matches, and it truly was breathtaking place to be. It's very, very difficult to describe the scale of this thing. To give you an idea as well, the main storage volume for all the content was 12 petabytes. So that's quite roomy. Yeah. And I wonder how they back that up. But anyway, that was their issue, not mine. This is the HDR gallery. Now, I absolutely love HDR, and it's another one of the things that more and more I'm getting into now. Because if you shoot in S-Log content or any kind of log content, you've got the 14-stop to dynamic range, and inside Premiere Pro now you can work with it. This was where they did all the sort of camera. It was the camera gallery, like the tech spec where they got the apertures right and all that sort of stuff. Football, HDR makes a lot of sense because you'll have seen matches where the camera operator's got to decide whether to expose for the pitch, which has got sun on it, or the stadium at the back, which is in shadow. In HDR, both. You can see both. Those monitors there, they're BVX 300. They're 30,000 quid each. The TriMaster. One of our editors broke one. He basically, Edit Suite support comes through. He goes, Edit Suite support, one of the monitors isn't working. I went, which one? He goes, the 300, the X300. I was like, you are joking. He's like, no, it's not working. I was like, okay, what's wrong with it? He says, I don't know. Had a big red line down the middle. Wasn't good. Yeah, it wasn't good. Let's talk about the challenge of Moscow. So the 32 international football teams, each team had an ENG camera crew charting how they were training, and they were shooting bits of content with the players, interviews, that kind of thing. So that content was coming in all the time. There was 12 stadiums. Russia, there was 11 time zones in Russia. I wanted to go to one of the matches, and it would have been a 10-hour flight from where I was to go to one of the matches. It just didn't happen. We only got 4 days off out of 60 days, I think. Multiple languages, all that sort of stuff. The challenges were vast, but HBS met those challenges, and it was a great tournament. And the fact that anyone was able to watch that football was basically largely down to the fact that HBS did the job and everyone got what they needed. Now, one thing that was really important, and I'm running out of time now, but basically the absolute critical point was that we had a partner application called Helmet, and that was created by Move IT, which are a German company. They're over there, and that handled all the project sharing. Basically, that you didn't open Premiere Pro to make a project. You opened Helmet, logged in as yourself, pressed the button, and it made a project for you with all the assets that you needed, all the sequences, all the bins. Works really well. If you want to, I'll be around, so you can, please do come and chat to me, and I could go into a little more detail about it. These are the suites. They were pretty beefy. Intel Xeon Gold, never heard of that before. That was a pretty monstrous CPU. Workflows, massive. I'm done. The last thing I wanted to say was that if you want to add me on any one of these social media channels, please do. And like I said, if you want to come and speak to me afterwards, please do.